Mr. Jax Taylor, where does one begin? Listen, we cover it all with Jax. We sat down with Jax. I find this conversation and all the parts there too so interesting. We sat down with Jax basically before the Valley was announced. He was talking about a show he was pitching. I was like, yeah, right, Jax. We all pitch a show, right? It was the Valley. Who knew? So before Scandival, before the Valley, before his separation from Brittany, we sat down with Jax. Now, I'm going over these videos. I'm going over this chat, and I find it so interesting. These have never before been seen. Well, we're going to share these with you. I find it so interesting looking back because I also don't think the Valley, no shade, would have been greenlit if it wasn't for Scandival. I've said that before. So this was before all of that. So when Jax was talking about the show he was pitching, I was like, yeah, right. Little did I know, but it's so interesting foreshadowing the Valley. And just of course, I'm reading into so many things that he says now about his marriage to Brittany, now that they're being separated. This wasn't that long ago, but this chat supersedes all of that. So, did we see Easter eggs in there? Did we see some foreshadowing? I don't know, but let's listen. Let's see what we can find out. Everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined by the one, the only Jax Taylor.
Hey, thanks for having me. How you doing?
Listen, Brittany came on. It was only a matter of time. We are finally doing this. It's so good to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much again for having me. This is awesome. Yeah, Brittany just told me she was on your podcast and she loved it.
Listen, shout out to Jenny Craig. When you look back, look, you look at like your gorgeous wife. She's now a spokesmodel for Jenny Craig. You just said she was going to Fashion Week in New York. You have a beautiful son. Like, does it ever just, shock you? Like, wow, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, if you go way back, gosh, since the beginning, yeah. How did I get here? I got a house, I got dogs, I got kids. I'm married. Never thought in a million years that any of this was going to happen for me. I guess God had other plans, and I had other plans. You grow and you learn and you mature, and this is definitely the path that I was supposed to be in. And I'm just happy, and I'm so proud of my wife. Getting back on the Jenny Craig thing, I'm so proud of her. She's crushed it. She's worked so hard. She didn't have the easiest pregnancy, and obviously during COVID and everything that was going on, being stuck in the house, it's tough. It was tough on many different reasons, for many different reasons. So she's back, she's killing it, she's happy again, and I'm really proud of her.
And Jenny Craig is major, so
Yeah, big deal. And when she got that, she was just so excited because her, icons, people that she's looked up to were on Jenny Craig, Mariah Carey and a bunch of other people. So she was just very, very excited and just very happy, and they love her and she loves them. And I'm not gonna lie, I like the food too. Sometimes I'll sneak a couple meals here and there. She yells at me, and I kind of like it too. So,
did you know what you were getting into? Like, okay, so you're a bartender at Sir. Like, certainly, like Lisa was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, so like you knew what reality TV was. You knew what Bravo was. Like, did you really know what you were getting into when you said yes to being part of the show?
no, because I was in such a transition in my life too. I was bartending at Sir. I was kind of getting out of the modeling world. I was finishing up that part of my life. I didn't want to do it anymore. It was just, it wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't exciting anymore. And I was kind of looking to transition to something else, but I needed to make some income. And I was dating Stassi at the time. And she's like, why don't you come and work at Sir until you figure it out, make some money? I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. And, I just liked working it, and the money was really, really good. And like I said, I was just really burnt out of the modeling world, the traveling and just living out of a suitcase, and just, it wasn't consistent. There would be a couple jobs here and there and then no job for a couple of weeks. It just wasn't working out for me anymore. I was getting older. It just wasn't what it used to be. Times were changing. Social media was getting big. So the agencies were kind of tearing off. The world changed as far as the modeling goes. It just doesn't work like it used to be anymore because of the world of the internet and all that. So it was just it was my time. I had a great run doing it, but it was time for something new. So like I said, I was dating Stassi at the time, and she's like, hey, why don't you come work at this restaurant that I'm working at, Sir, just to make some income until we figure out what the next move was going to be. And then I was at Sir for maybe 3 weeks. And then the show came about, and they were asking, hey, would you be interested in being in it? And I'm like, well, I really don't have much going on. And to be honest, I was really going to move back to Florida. I'm sorry. I was going to move. My parents lived in Florida at the time. Okay, we're going back a lot of years here, so I got to rack my brain. But we're going. I was actually going to move back to Florida. I was going to say, I called my parents, my mom and dad, or my dad was like, "Are you done having fun in Hollywood yet? It's been 10 years. I think it's time for you to come home and get a real job. And I need, real paychecks and all that." And I was like, you know what? I agree. So I was going to pack my truck up and just drive from California back to Florida. And then, Lisa, when I told Lisa this, when I told my job, sir, this, like, "Hey, listen, if you don't mind waiting a couple of weeks, we have a project in the works." Now, I've been told this before by other things too, and I was kind of like, I've been let down before on other projects and other things, the things that follow through, and I was like, well, I don't know, I'm kind of getting to the point where my bank account's running kind of low, and I got to start borrowing from my dad, and I made him promises like that I would come home after a certain time. She's like, "Listen, I promise you, it'll be worth it." And so I guess this is where we are now. So I guess it was worth it. I stuck around and I went through the pitch, the pilot of it all, and they were really excited about it. Again, I wasn't trying to get my hopes up too much because I've been let down in the past before with different projects, different shows. So I kind of wasn't really getting too excited about it until about, I think, 4 weeks. It went by really fast because they wanted the show to happen quick. There's a lot of things going on in movement with staff and with, like, I was going to move and I wasn't having it anymore. And Lisa at the time, really wanted me on there as a focal point. So there was a lot going on between me and Stassi at the time. And I was this close to, like, listen, I'm done. I just want to go back and live a normal life in Florida, be a firefighter, and be done with my life. But that's kind of how it happened. I may be missing a few things in there, but that's kind of how the gist of it happened. And I ended up calling my dad. I'm like, "Dad, I got to stay a little longer." And 10 years later, this is where we are.
Well, look, I mean, like, back in its heyday, it was like, I feel the best show on Bravo. I agree with you with everything you've said when you're like, the reason it worked, it was because it was actually a real group of friends as opposed to, this show was casted.
What it is now.
Yes, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Okay.
I've got some things to say.
And listen, I man, the show, it was such a blessing to be on, a blessing to be part of. And like I said, I think Bravo and NBC, and I had such a great time on it. But like anything else, times change, things change. We all grow, we all want different things, and it was our time to depart. But we had a great time on the show, and like I said, thanks to Lisa and everybody that gave us the chance to be on it. It was amazing. It was a fun, but all things change, things and friends change and groups change, and I feel like if I was still bartending after 10 years, there'd be a little bit of a problem, so we're excited. There's a lot of things in the works right now. We can get into that later, but yeah, we're excited for the future. We've got some stuff in the works. So
I agree with you. Things do change. I love change. I think anyone that doesn't realize every show is going to come to an end. Does everyone remember The Real World on MTV? Things change.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you
right.
Gotta have things where things get stagnant, and then people, I can see on social media now, you're still bartending, you're still doing this. So it's like, even if it was a lose battle for me, because staying on there, still doing the same thing, it would have been a little bit like, still really, you're 40 something years old and you're still doing this, So it needed some change, and I'm glad they brought in some young blood. I don't watch the show, but it needed some young blood. But what I pride our show on, our original show, when I say original, is we were a core group of friends that were real and not casted. We were just there, and the camera showed up, they turned the camera on, and it went. There was no, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" Now it's a little different because now they have to really push for storylines, because I believe, and I'm not quite sure, like a lot of those people are just been friends recently. Putting that lightly, they were now they're friends. So
yes.
Where we all had drama and we had a lot of stuff. Like it was so, and when I would go to Bravo and I'd go to the corporate offices, and like, they always said, "You guys make our job so easy. We don't have to tell you anything. We don't have to do anything. We basically show up with coffee in our hands and you guys are already going." And I used to say, this stuff, this arguing, all this would go on whether the cameras are here or not. You guys are just here to see it. But this was going on regardless. I say now things are a little bit more, I think, manufactured. I guess that's the great word. But it was real then. Like it was the real deal. And I think when I would do other conferences and talk about the show and why our show was so successful, it's because you had a real group of friends. You didn't have, okay, hey, we're going to bring in this girl. We need a blonde to play against this guy, and we need them to be friends, but we also need her to fight with this. Like there was none of that. And I think that's why our formula worked so well. And you can really tell when shows are casted, when they bring in, we're going to bring in this girl. She looks like she would flirt with him. It doesn't mesh. And I can see it now because I was on a television for so long that you can tell a casted group. You can tell a forced situation. You can tell why are they having dinner at this time and having this? It just, you can tell. And I think when we were on it, it was just so organic. It was so, man, it was just like, it was just easy for them. And they were popping out episodes left and right. We were like doing 20 episodes, you know. Now I think they're doing 9 or 8, but we were doing 20 because there was just